Welcome back. So this is the last section, and I feel like it doesn't belong in the article. I have to admit, I wonder when Michael Porter was writing this article, did like the reviewers tell him to put this in or something? It just doesn't feel, to me, it doesn't feel like it belongs. But it's talking about like kind of the future of strategy. They talk about profitable growth, the failure to choose, the role of leadership, all this kind of stuff. But the point of it is the job of the people heading the company in the composition of strategy. And they talk a lot about, failure to choose. They say that a lot of executives don't understand that you have to choose between, one set of activities or another. And they say that the, seductiveness of operational effectiveness or operational efficiency is alluring because then it means you don't have to choose between one activity or another. And they also talk about leadership and the growth trap and profitable growth, that leaders get seduced into continuing to grow their companies ever larger instead of focusing on the most profitable activities. Well, let me offer just a couple of counterpoints to this. First of all, the CEO is not always the one in charge, contrary to what people think, right? And it feels like Michael Porter's kind of forgotten like the whole field of corporate governance when he goes through this particular article. That's kind of what I feel like. Because again, the board of directors composes the strategy, the CEO executes it. That's chief executive officer, right? And they're beholden to shareholders. So there's a lot of times where the CEO, there may be things that they could do that's in the best interest of the company long term, but it's not in the shareholders' interest in the short term. You can't go to shareholders and say, hey, we're going to focus on like this more profitable path and we're going to make a lot of money in the next 10 years, but in the meantime, your shares are going to lose 30% of their value. Stockholders are not going to go for that. Okay, so that's part of it. The other thing when they talk about this failure to choose and the growth trap, a lot of companies, especially the conglomerates that you think of during the 1980s, got so big for a very simple reason. It has nothing to do with a failure to choose or any of this stuff. It's not even, it's kind of strategy related, but it's more the CEO's personal strategy, not company strategy. And this still exists today. But in a lot of companies, the CEO and the senior executives teams, bonuses are determined by the size of the company, not necessarily the profitability. So the senior team is incentivized to make the company grow, irrespective if it's the most profitable growth, right? And a lot of CEOs also know if they spin off certain elements of their company, then they may be criticized by shareholders. Kimberly-Clark is a great example. They make Kleenex and things like that. Well, originally Kimberly-Clark actually owned the forest that cut down trees and the paper pulp processing plants and all that stuff. And a new CEO came along and sold all that stuff to just focus on making the paper products. And shareholders were really up in arms. The stock went down, the whole thing. Now Kimberly-Clark is more profitable than ever because they focus on their most profitable activities. But a lot of people criticized them at the time. Procter & Gamble went through a similar thing. They have lots and lots of products, toothpaste, mouthwash, etc. And a lot of them are profitable. They sold off a lot of the profitable brands to focus on the most profitable brands. And a lot of shareholders got really nervous about that. So again, it's not all on the CEO. And another thing you got to remember, sometimes it's hard to figure out what your most profitable activities are and what your choices should be because you are so bogged down by these redundancies. You've got to engage in OE first and get closer to that production possibilities frontier so you can make better choices, right? Here's a great example. Now, it's not necessarily corporate, but it illustrates a point. I did a Lean Six Sigma consulting project when I was in the Army. And we were in Korea, and there was this like really crazy, complicated weather report that was sent to the Pentagon. It was a multi-million-dollar project. And so what we did is we focused on getting rid of all the administrative redundancies in that project. We were so busy with that. And we eventually got the stuff done. And then there comes a point towards the end of the project, I'm like, wow, like this project has gone from hundreds of hours to about 40. And I said, you know what, let's call the customer at the Pentagon and just ask, is there anything else you want in the report? Because now we got a lot more time. And the guy picked up on the other end, like, I don't know why you were sending me this report. I didn't ask for it and I don't want it. I thought it was just something you thought I needed or it was something you were already producing. I don't know what this is even supposed to be. But see, here's the point. We were so bogged down in the weeds because that happens. You've got tight, fast deadlines that you got to produce right away that you can't see the big picture. You need to sometimes that time away to meditate and then to realize that maybe what you're doing isn't even valued by the customer. But we had to optimize our processes first to figure out that weather report was no longer a priority. We stopped making that weather report and all that manpower shifted to something else. So sometimes you've got to optimize the weeds so that you can see the big picture. And it sounds easy, oh, you should have just asked that first, but no. Again, when you've got deadlines every single day on these projects, you don't always have time to take a step back and reflect, right? So that's my kind of critique of this failure to choose and the role of leadership. What do you think about this section of Michael Porter's article? Let me know in the comments down below. And as always, if you like this discussion, hit that like button. That's a thumbs up. Definitely pound that subscribe button. I'm a starving YouTube creator, and I'm looking forward to seeing you in the next playlist. Thanks for watching.